The door?
I can't.
You can try, miss. Where are you going?
You know what? No one else will.
Conchata Ferrell, Rip Torn, and Lilia Scala star in Heartland.
Oh, but I like this place.
A true life.
Stop in Calgary. Equal pay, daycare, pensions, and abortion are expected to be the main issues in tomorrow night's leaders' debate. In weather, Jim says a few clouds and warmer temperatures tomorrow. And in sports, besides injuries, getting into a slump is something athletes dread the most. Grant will explain.
Channels 2 and 7 News First with Steve Abrams and Deborah Land.
Good evening. The post-Olympic celebrations continue today for Alberta's Olympic athletes. In election news, we have a preview of tomorrow's women's debate and coverage of one of Canada's more popular Tories. Steve?
That popular politician you mentioned is the Conservative finance critic, John Crosbie. He made a campaign stop here in Calgary today. And for 40 solid minutes, he outlined in no uncertain terms his problems with the Liberal government. Newsfirst's Gary Suo attended his luncheon and has this report.
Sniffing the ever-growing possibility of becoming the country's finance minister again, John Crosbie delivered one of his classic Liberal bashing speeches.
And mind, we open it up, together we'll solve it, whatever it might be. We open it up again. Every woman works, you're damn right they do. They got no choice under the Liberals but to work.
Crosbie also fired a broadside toward the New Democrats.
As soon as they're in minority positions, the NDP help keep them in. When we're in a minority position, they help the Liberals to throw us out. They're the Labrador retrievers of the Liberal Party of Canada.
Throughout his speech, he accused Prime Minister Turner of being vague and unspecific, calling him tight-lips Turner. Then afterward, Crosbie promised that a Conservative government would set in place inducements and incentives so that the Foreign Investment Review Agency would not be the impediment the Liberals have made it. Later, when Crosbie visited Alex Kindy's headquarters, we asked him to be more specific about his FIRA incentives.
In the first place, we're going to increase the threshold so that only major transactions would have to be reviewed by FIRA. So that would be a major change. And as to more specifics, as to what, you'd have to ask Michael Wilson or the critic who's in charge of FIRA.
Kindy and Crosbie are a study in contrasts. Crosbie loves the media, whereas Kindy is somewhat shy and retiring. Crosbie stuck up for Kindy's deliberate tactic of avoiding the media by saying he prefers to operate in a more modest and unobtrusive style. Gary Suo, News First.
There is a debate of sorts going on in the riding of Calgary East about whether there is even going to be a debate. The Tory candidate, Alex Kindy, still won't say whether he's willing to take part in a debate with the Liberal candidate, Rod Sykes. And today we tried to press Kindy for an answer.
Will you or will you not debate Rod Sykes, either on CFAC television or any other forum from now until September the 4th?
Look, what I'm interested in is to get the Liberals out of office. This is what I'm interested in.
Will you not meet him on a one-on-one?
I'm interested to get the Liberals out. This is what I'm interested in.
Wouldn't that kind of forum best show your ability to get the Liberals out?
I think we are having success across the country and we're having success here. So there's no problem.
But you haven't answered my question.
I don't know. It's your problem. Thank you.
In Quebec, the Cultural Affairs Minister has summed up the Parti Québécois stance on the federal election by saying anybody but the Liberals. Clement Richard says it couldn't possibly be worse with the Conservatives, and he says a lot of other people, including his colleagues, feel the same way.
Tomorrow night, millions of Canadians will tune in across the country as the three federal party leaders square off in their third televised debate. The debate is on women's issues, and it will be aired live starting at 6 p.m. on 2 and 7. Women now make up 52% of the country's voters, giving them unprecedented clout in this campaign. It was enough to prompt the Prime Minister to apologize in advance today for his behind-patting, but as Nancy Wilson tells us tonight, there are much bigger issues to be explored.
Equality is the overriding issue touching all women. Equal pay for work of equal value and equal employment opportunities are particularly important. All three leaders support equal pay for work of equal value to varying degrees. John Turner wants to ensure that government does business only with companies committed to that goal. Brian Mulroney wants to make sure existing rules are being enforced in government. Ed Broadbent, like the Liberals, wants Ottawa to deal only with firms that promote bridging the pay gap. Providing adequate daycare is also a subject of debate. John Turner wants to improve existing services. Brian Mulroney wants a task force to study the matter. Ed Broadbent wants universal, affordable daycare modeled after the Medicare system. The leaders are also expected to address the proliferation of pornographic material. John Turner wants tougher laws against pornography, saying he's waiting for the results of 2 reports on the subject. Brian Mulroney wants the criminal code to be more specific. Ed Broadbent wants the criminal code clarified and strengthened. With more than 60% of women over 65 living below the poverty line, there's a push to improve pension schemes. The Liberal leader says the existing system's inadequate and wants alternatives to be examined. Brian Mulroney supports making homemakers eligible for the Canada Pension Plan, and Ed Broadbent wants to increase both old age security payments and the guaranteed income supplement. The leaders will also be quizzed on the abortion issue. John Turner supports existing legislation. So does Brian Mulroney. And Ed Broadbent says it should be up to the individual woman.
On a related note, anti-abortion groups in Canada are going to be given free national advertising time during the federal election campaign. It's all because of a loophole in the Election Act broadcasting regulations, and the networks have no choice in the matter.
This is one of the ads that the anti-abortion group Campaign Life will be running during the final weeks of the election.
Baby. Some people are handicapped before birth, like me. Others
the group is paying to place ads on 3 Ontario television stations. But a loophole in the Elections Act will also allow the group nearly 3 minutes of free time on national television. Those in favor of the right to have abortions are upset, especially as they don't have the right of reply. But a Campaign Life official defends taking advantage of the free publicity windfall.
We're doing nothing that's illegal or immoral. Since the loophole is there, we're going to take full advantage of it, as you would as a taxpayer who found a loophole which said that you didn't have to pay your full income tax.
Pro-choice backers say it's unfair, but claim they're not worried, as most Canadians support their stand.
And I also think that if people are aware of the circumstances under which this time is being made available to the pro-life party, that will also be a factor that will not dispose them favorably towards the pro-life party.
Under federal law, a civil servant is not allowed to take part in an election campaign. And after a decision in the Federal Court of Canada today, that's not about to change. Kevin Newman has details from Ottawa.
Michael Cassidy is the NDP candidate in an Ottawa riding where 1 in every 5 people work for government. He tried to convince the court guides governing and behavior of civil servants during the election were stifling his campaign. The guides, issued this past February, warn the employees against partisan campaigning which, quote, could give rise to the perception that they may not be able to perform their duties in a politically impartial manner. Cassidy's lawyer argued the guides deny public servants their civil rights. The lawyer for the Justice Department argued the issue is too complicated for a quick ruling. The federal court agreed. Associate Chief Justice James Jerome, himself a former politician, said a ruling interpreting the Charter of Rights is, quote, inappropriate in a rushed atmosphere. He added, denying the injunction is a small price to pay to avoid chaos. Justice Jerome noted there was really no way the law could have been changed in time to influence this election. The application came too late. But Michael Cassidy doesn't deny the media attention his case has generated, has succeeded in making civil servants' rights and responsibilities one of the key issues of his local campaign. Kevin Newman, Global News, Ottawa.
A Calgary businessman today blasted all 3 federal party leaders for not coming up with any concrete proposals to help Canada's ailing economy. Ron Southern, the president of ATCO, told a shareholders meeting that this country needs a government that will repair the economic mistakes of the past 10 years. And as John Gulker reports, Southern says it's time governments cut programs and balance the budget.
Ron Southern says Canada has been so badly mismanaged over the past 20 years, he wonders why the 3 major political parties are trying so hard to inherit the mess. To provide employment and prosperity, Southern says the government will have to establish a totally new enterprise environment to work in. That can be accomplished by downsizing the government, cutting taxes, and reducing expenditures. Legislation that would do away with our national debt in 4 years is also needed. But for that, Southern is not holding his breath.
What we think will happen is that there won't be the political will, and that we're going to see throughout Canada and other countries of the world a monetizing of the debt that will lead to superinflation.
Southern does practice what he preaches. A number of staff cuts have been imposed throughout the ATCO group of companies over the past 2 years. The number of unionized workers alone has been reduced from 1,200 to 300. and the remaining members will be asked to take cuts in salary and benefits when their contracts expire at the end of this year. John Gulka, News First.
Two of the country's major banks claim that according to their leading indicators, Canada's economic growth is going to slow down. They blame high interest rates and declining business and consumer confidence. They say the extent of the slowdown will depend on how much higher U.S. interest rates rise.
A tornado touched down in the northwest end of Toronto tonight at about 6 o'clock our time. It packed enough force to collapse several buildings and blow the roofs off some houses. Miraculously, only minor injuries have been reported so far. One man was struck by lightning, and 4 people were hurt in a car accident that was likely storm-related. The tornado struck the Jane Shepherd area of Toronto.
Coming up later on News First, Jim has the weather forecast, and Grant takes a look at tonight's Major League scoreboard. And there was another big reception in honor of Alberta's Olympic athletes today. We'll be right back with more on that following this break.
Wantina lives in a poor area of the third world, without education, without clean water, and with never enough to eat.